You turn down a dark, lonely highway. Your radio picks up a sound you've never heard before, a disturbing, unnatural sound. You try to change it to the local pop station, one that might have a rapper with one of those funny names like Yeet Jesus or Little Jorts. But no matter which way you turn the dial, it's always that same intrusive sound, a lost signal. The realm you're about to step into is one not for children or virgin ears. It is a soundscape of stupidity and hopelessness, a place of big feet and bigger cigar-shaped anomalies, of the sky variety. You have just ventured into the Lost Signals Paranormal Podcast.
Welcome to Lost Signals Paranormal. I am Dylan, and with me is...
Finnan. Me.
Jill. There's also me.
Harley, which usually isn't me, but sometimes is.
It depends on the day. Today we are here to talk about UFOs and extraterrestrials in Arizona. This has been a fun subject to do some research on, and we have some other people that will come in and out of the show as it goes on, but for this first episode, it's just us today. Did you guys get some good research?
Oh, we got some pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. I think so. Who wants to go first?
Well, I think we'll just kind of like start talking about things, and I have some stuff in this book I can bring up.
Cool.
Do we want to go in like chronological order, like with the earliest?
That's what I was kind of thinking about. Yeah.
We can probably jump around a little bit, but let's start at the beginning.
So, if we want to go back to the first earliest case, recorded case in Arizona, in 1913 or 14.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it goes back.
There's a game warden named Gene Holden, who he was riding his horse over on the Toronto Rim, or Tonto?
Tonto Rim.
Tonto
National
Rim.
Forest, the Tonto
The
Rim.
Toronto Rim is in Canada.
He was in Canada. It had nothing to do with Arizona.
I was just thinking about Arizona.
Yeah.
Game warden Gene Holden was riding horseback in the Tonto Rim, and apparently he saw a low-flying object approach overhead. It was described as glowing, appeared to be a huge silver tin plate, so bright that it hurt his eyes.
This was 1913?
1913 or 1914.
This is going to be the start of a recurring theme that I like to call the big metal frisbee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, which
Yeah.
one of the sightings
But you
are
also have to consider is that, just aviation in general basically wasn't happening at all.
The
I mean,
frisbees were.
There wasn't even planes yet.
Yeah, like
Out in the park with your dog. Think about it.
big metal frisbee.
Yeah, big metal dog.
What about
course.
Wild Wild West? The discs,
Jim West, Desperado.
the discs that shot out,
Uh-huh, yeah.
cut off your head.
saw blades.
That was in the
Yeah.
1800s, that documentary, Wild
Yeah.
Wild West.
But no, it moved overhead about 100 feet up and soared off into the distance. Holden had no idea what it might be until years later in 1947, when the term flying saucer came into use.
Which, incidentally, was like the next recorded in Arizona.
Yeah.
Was one
Pretty
of
much.
the most prolific photographs ever taken of UFOs.
Yeah.
Was taken here.
Was that by the guy who coined that term, or was that somebody else?
The Arizona Republic, I think, was the ones who coined the term flying saucer.
Ew.
In relation to his photographs.
And that flying saucer did not go over well with the government officials because they didn't want to officially say that it was aliens or anything. So the Project Blue Book people created the term unidentified flying objects.
Unidentified fucking object.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the government's like, oh no, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be aliens. It's not us, but it could be anything.
Yeah, can I preface it that it's definitely not us, and that it could be anything, but not alien or us.
No, it's definitely not.
But it's
As
definitely
opposed
something.
to later when they're just like, no, that was us. It's not aliens. It was us. It's fine.
Which goes in line with the code names, where it's like the first off, it's all misdirection, and at the end, it's just like, all right, we kind of admit it's us.
Yeah, it's
I think it's like
aliens.
It's like Project Grudge or something like that, or Grudge. It's like it eventually comes to the point where it just sounds like the
Yeah, there's Project Grudge, Project Sign, and Project Blue Book. So another big thing. This is when the big super wave of UFO sightings started in the 40s, late 40s, about 47. On July 7th, 1947, around the same time as the Roswell crash, a amateur photographer known as William Rhodes in Phoenix was drawn outside by a strange sound. He was hoping to photograph a jet, and he was surprised when he saw a flying disc. It was semicircular, flat, and circling the area about 2,000 feet away.
So yeah, and that's the photograph that was
I'm looking at it right
widely, and it's one of the most prolific photographs. He described it as looking as like the heel of a man's shoe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Looks like it's kind of warping.
Ooh, I like how you can see a little globular mass at the center of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
William Rhodes quickly snapped 2 photos of the objects, and then it veered and flew off to the west. And he had 2 pictures.
Yeah, and 2 days later, they were printed in the Arizona Republic. And then allegedly, which every claim is saying it's not true, allegedly, there's a guy who says that the Army Air Force, which at the time it wasn't the Air Force, it was still part of the Army, Department of the Army. The Army Air Force went through town and collected all of the issues by took them all the issues at the time, which I mean basically everyone refutes it, but this one guy is pretty adamant that it actually happened. And then a few weeks after that, or actually I think less than a week after that, a couple FBI agents showed up at William Rhodes' house, asked to look at the negatives and stuff like that, talk with him, have an interview, and they asked to borrow the negatives. He said, yeah, sure, and he never got them back.
Nope, I didn't. I was about to say that too.
So that's another thing that always happens whenever you're talking about UFOs. Every single time is someone took it, I lost it, it burned in a fire, my dog ate it.
The FBI breaks in and takes
Men in
everything.
Black,
And
yeah.
The FBI breaks it, a ghost buffalo came around and trampled on it.
Stole it.
Ninjas stole it.
But before the FBI took that picture, the photos were viewed by Kenneth Arnold, who is a famous in the UFO community person who saw something. He saw one of the earliest UFOs in the 40s in Washington over Mount Rainier, and he is someone that I would love to talk about in a future episode on Washington. But he actually saw the photos, and he completely was like, these are genuine, these are the real deal, these are UFO photos. He saw it, and he knows exactly what it looks like. So I think that's pretty cool.
About 6 months after the whole thing happened, Rhodes was requested to go to an airbase in Dayton, Ohio, I think, by a couple, I think it's Army Intelligence or Army Air Force Intelligence officers or something like that. It's a weird acronym. And he's like, you know what, I don't have the time to go up there. So a couple days later, a couple guys showed up at his house, spoke with him again for a few hours, and left again. So he had another interview by effectively the same people about 6 months later down the line, and it was like, you know what, I'm not talking about this anymore ever again. Allegedly. I wasn't able to find any other conversations past that point, or any information past that point about him having conversations or doing interviews or stuff like that. So,
one last thing on that case. UFO researchers have speculated that Rhodes may have photographed one of the actual UFOs that crashed at Roswell.
This guy gets around.
Yeah, because it was, I think he took the
No,
photos.
when he took those pictures.
Oh, okay.
It was the same UFO.
Because he
That
took
makes sense.
Because he took the photos on July 7th,
Yeah, 1 day later was the Roswell incident.
and Roswell was just right after.
Yeah.
And then months after that was the sighting of the UFO crash into the Dreamy Draw. Damn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was a few weeks,
Yeah.
just like less than 3 months, I think it was.
It was in October, so yeah, July 8th, and then October in 47 was Dreamy Drop.
And that dam is still there, not really being a dam anymore. It isn't needed for anything, but it's a big pile of rocks with a UFO underneath.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Allegedly.
That wasn't built until 30 years after the crash.
I got a fun little anecdote for you guys. You know what the local term used to describe flying saucers were in Arizona? Or was in Arizona?
Something very pig-like.
Sailing saguaros?
Flying tortillas.
Oh, man. Delicious.
You know, racist. It's fine.
If you throw them up there high enough, it toasts them just right, like Icarus.
You gotta wrap them in tinfoil though first.
Add some cheese to it.
That's why it's so shiny.
That's what it's been the whole time.
Yeah.
Not a frisbee.
Something else that I found in here a lot is that most of these objects are described as no sound coming from them.
Yeah. A lot of incidents where people claim that they've seen UFOs state that there was absolutely no noise.
It's really strange. And also, Arizona has a lot of cigar-shaped UFOs. Not just flying saucer-looking ones.
Yeah, I looked into several of those as well. People claim they're just long, cylindrical.
Yeah. A little strange.
Sort of like an airplane without wings.
Kind of a Larry Niven Ringworld-esque tube ship of some sort.
Very
Something like
phallic aliens.
I mean, pretty much, yeah, like using frictionless drives and blah, 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 blah.
The 1947 UFO superwave ended for Arizona when about 25 residents of the town of Douglas watched a small cluster of lights which zipped around the town circle it 10 times at high speeds until turning away and disappearing.
Oh, Dougie Doug, what's going on over there?
A lot of drugs apparently because it's Douglas, Arizona.
Yeah, every other.
Well, this is 1947. So.
Exactly. Think about what Douglas, Arizona is today, and then go back 50, 60 years.
Like every outside like town in Arizona is so fucking weird.
Pretty sure every single person there was drunk 100% of the time because that's like the only way to live in that places like that.
Probably going to cut this out because who knows what our demographic is going to be.
Oh, yeah, our fans in Douglas, Arizona
Yeah.
are going to be just
The
distraught.
one person who listens to this is gonna be in Douglas. And they're like, hey,
Just saying.
Hey!
I'm offended.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I'm going to just lay it all out and say that Globe is populated only by ghosts. So come at me, Globe.
I mean, it's true.
it is true.
Yeah.
Because it's just ghosts.
Do you
everywhere.
ever see people on the streets?
No, I don't.
They're all in one cafe. They're never in the streets. They're not in the antique stores.
No.
You can
Proof
just
of
walk.
life?
No, you walk into an antique store and you're just like, no one's here.
It's
but
just
I
like
am
a-
somehow in the store.
It's just like
I
a
can't
system
even
of
buy anything.
trust.
There's no one here.
You just grab something and then set some money on the counter and it disappears.
Yeah, you better set some money or else you're going to be haunted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All that furniture's haunted because
Yeah.
everyone in Globe is a ghost.
I know.
Yes.
So we can shit talk Douglas. At least they live.
We respect and fear Globe. Yeah. Payson, delightful. I love Payson.
Pretty great, actually.
Yeah.
Prescott's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's not bad. Sedona's annoying.
Here you go.
Around after this time in 1947, Project Blue Book started up, and that is when
Well, that one started in 51, didn't it?
well, after 47, I mean,
Right.
like after all this
Okay.
sightings there. Yeah, Project Blue Book started up soon after, and no, it was actually 1947.
Really?
So after,
Apparently.
was this like a reactionary thing to Roswell?
Very likely.
Yeah.
Probably had a lot
Because it
to
was
do
the
with
same year then.
related to a lot of things.
He's like signing the paperwork for Project Blue Book. And
Okay,
it's like,
yeah.
get on the horn, Roswell. And it's like, oh shit.
I
Definitely.
think Project Blue Book was started in 52, but they researched cases that were older.
Yeah, because the first thing
Yeah.
I saw of them investigating was the Marana Air Base sighting
Yeah.
in 52.
Yes, but only 13 Arizona cases were investigated by Project Blue Book and were labeled unidentified.
Yeah. You
So-
mean UFOs?
There's some very interesting cases, and a lot of ones where they just kind of immediately are thrown out, and they're like, "Oh, it's a hoax. It's fake."
I mean, a lot of them are also very obviously meteorites
Yeah,
and stuff like that. Like bright shining light that lasted about 5 seconds. You know,
Yeah.
flew this this fast, and then disappeared over those hills. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a meteorite.
Yeah.
So maybe stop drinking so much, Douglas. And
Yeah.
Oh, here's an interesting case. In November 2nd of 1951, there were 165 people over a wide area that observed a green fireball that blazed more bright than the moon and appeared much larger.
and this
Wow.
goes back to the.
Oh, where was this?
It's stretched across a pretty decent part of Arizona, but this goes back.
165 people saw it.
This goes back to the meteorites.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have concerns about that one because it relates to another incident that was seen in San Diego about 2 weeks prior. But at the same time, that goes back to meteorites.
Yeah. Basically.
You know, some things that are unidentified and flying can just be big rocks from space.
Or anything, comets.
Satellites.
That green fireball one reminds me of something in Siberia, though.
A satellite with a lot of kerosene.
Oh,
The Tunguska event?
Tunguska
Yeah,
event.
but that was in 1908.
That one's super interesting.
Was that the big...
That was the huge, like,
Yeah.
it kind of
We'll
reminds
save that
me
for the Siberia.
I
episode.
know. I'm just saying, people were like, they thought it was a meteorite too, but there's like no impact, and there's just like this huge thing.
Well, there's a lake where there's an impact.
Yeah, a lake is covering it now, but there's like this huge area where it's just like the forest was killed and cleared out. And
Oh
there's a
yeah,
lake there.
those photographs are intense.
Yeah,
They are, yeah. I definitely recommend looking up the Tunguska event.
but that's later.
Also, it's definitely possible that things can fall and explode in midair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another
So-
option.
Something interesting about Project Blue Book is that they usually, this is where like the government's really fucking biased and assholes.
What?
Such controversy.
When it came to declaring a UFO incident unidentified, the Air Force strongly preferred military witnesses.
Oh
Well, yeah, of
Yeah.
course they would.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, this person that like
Yeah, the private pushing the broom out behind
well.
the
Yeah.
fucking armory at 3 a.m.
Dick in hand.
Yeah, is more reliable than the physicist down the street who saw the exact same thing.
Yeah, I will say there were a lot of cases that were spotted by like children or teenagers where it's like, I don't know if I'd trust that so much because, I mean, kids.
Adults have a general ability to discern and comprehend what they see.
Kids
based on
read
Yeah.
science fiction novellas. They can't be trusted.
No.
those fantasy teen vampire stories.
As a kid who had a very overactive imagination,
Oh yeah,
I know what it's like.
Yeah, you wanted everything to be aliens.
Yeah,
and ghosts. Yeah.
exactly.
Exactly.
So like you go and you there's actually a case in here that was in like May 1977, right after Star Wars came out,
Yeah.
and this person's like, I saw an alien.
Are you
I've
saying
seen it.
those two could be related?
George Lucas.
Do you think
Does he know something?
Oh my god.
it's like poetry. It rhymes.
Poetry it rhymes. If you're
Every scene
listening,
is so dense, dude.
if you're listening, we loved you, George Lucas.
Loved.
Well, yeah. Past tense.
George, if you're listening, can we have lunch sometime? I just want to talk to you.
Have-
See how you're
George.
doing.
Have your people call our people.
Yeah.
Which is just us.
Just us.
Yeah.
Can you just lend a 1,000, please? Just a quick 1,000.
You can tune up for my car.
I'm not going to go through all the Project Blue Book cases.
There's like
Yeah.
there's like 16.
I do have a question. So, what is the Marina Airport base thing?
Base.
So,
what happened at the base?
It's back in 52 or 53.
52.
52. April 3rd, 1952.
Yeah, April 3rd, 1952. There was
a civilian flight commander named Chick Logan.
That's
Logan.
great. name.
Chick Logan.
Yeah, back when
names
So
were
if you-
like that.
so if you go look at like the Google aerial view of the base as it is now, it's an airport.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an airport, and it always has been. But the photographs show this tiny little, like comparatively today's standards, tiny little squared off section that has like roads running through it, and that was the airport. It was like 2 buildings and an airstrip. Basically, early in the morning, I think before 8 o'clock, they saw he was a pilot instructor teaching a guy to fly. And I guess they were in separate planes because he came in.
No, he was waiting for his. Hold on, I got it right here. I just saw it. He was waiting for a radio transmission from one of his students when he noticed an oval light.
Yeah. So okay. So we don't necessarily know if his student was in another plane or not. But yeah, he saw a super bright light up in the sky, and
That's called the sun.
kind of just passed it off. Like it was, kind of just passed it off for a few minutes, and then other people were like, "Hey, do you see that?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so they watched it for a few minutes. Then another pilot took off to go to get a better look at it, and he said that he got to about 10,000 feet and realized that it was at about 30 to 40,000 feet.
40,000 feet.
Anywhere between 30 to 40.
He climbed
Close
up
to
to
the sun.
He climbed up to 14,000, but was not equipped to go any higher. He described it as 5 times the size of a B-29 Superfortress. It was not like
A million billion times larger than a bee.
Some big ass bee.
Oh, once again we recite the tale of Icarus, who flew too close to the bee.
It was not like a disc, said Logan, but more oblong. It was real bright and shone like polished aluminum. I'll tell you, I have been flying for 25 years and I have never seen anything like it. That's an actual quote.
Tell you
I'll
what.
I'll tell you what, boy.
So yeah, they watched it for about 45 minutes, and
That bee ain't right.
the first guy who saw it, I guess it was Chick Logan.
Chick Logan, our boy.
I love
I never found his name anywhere. He said that he was sitting in his plane, just on the runway or on the ground, and he said that it never moved in relation to his canopy. So I mean, he's sitting there in the seat. He has frame of reference.
Yeah, it didn't move the entire time.
It didn't move the entire time, and then after about 45 minutes, it just disappeared.
And Chick Logan is what the book that I read the story out of has the name. It could have been just used as a placeholder name because they didn't
No,
have
his
the
name
actual
is Chick Logan because it's beautiful.
It better
Yes.
be.
It better.
Chick, if you're out there,
Tweet us.
1947 or 52, he was probably in his 30s. He might be dead by now.
yeah.
Maybe.
Little Chick, if you're out there.
Chick Jr. too.
Yeah.
The second.
Chick-fil-A. If you're listening.
Chick Boyardee, tweet us.
So yeah, we can go back a little bit. The Dreamy Draw alleged crash is alleged. It's just it's such a short anecdote. There's like no information that's any different. It's like, oh hey, something may have crashed here.
I'm gonna promise right now at some point we're gonna go out there because it's really close.
I would love to.
It's just a rest area. We can like reach our hands up and take a picture, and I just want to do it because it's gonna
I
be
get taken.
Oh no! Next to all the other people who are just there walking their dogs.
Yeah.
Can only hold about 200 people or something like that. It's a tiny little desert park.
Less than that, I think, actually. Yeah. It's like really small.
Yeah.
And there's just a mound with an UFO underneath.
No, that's it. Nothing else.
The was built to cover it, but it wasn't built for like 30 years.
Because they were like, we'll do it tomorrow, and it happened a billion times.
I mean, Arizona construction, yeah.
True.
They're
This
gonna put that
economy
off.
in the economy in the
This
50s.
economy.
Here's an interesting thing. In August 26th of 1960 in Mesa.
I live there.
Yeah. A Mr. Cleet L. Miller. Clet?
How's it spelled?
C-L-E-T-E.
Cletus Yeetus.
Cleet?
Norman Reedus.
I would have
Okay,
to-
let me see.
I would have to pronounce it Cleet.
Just name him Chick again.
Chick Logan.
Miller.
Wait,
He's back.
what was his name?
Cleet Miller.
It's just what's his whole name?
Or Cleet.
Cleet L. Miller.
Just say C.L. Miller.
Cleet L. Miller and his wife at 8 o'clock at night.
Cleetle.
They saw a object hovering in the southeast sky that was emitting 4 separate beams of light, while a bright light beacon was flashed up from the top of the source of the object. At one point, the object disappeared and reappeared much farther to the north, at which point Miller heard a rumbling noise.
When was this?
This was 1960,
Groundworms.
August 26th.
The Tremors.
How early did people start using search and rescue helicopters?
I don't know.
Because I think you saw a search and rescue helicopter.
But the case, he did contact the Air Force Base and ask them, and he contacted the local newspaper who printed the story the next day, and the case was eventually investigated by NICAP. That's
Excuse me?
N-I-C-A-P.
I'm sorry.
Nightcap.
I'm going to call it NICAP.
NICAP.
because it
I thought you were
sounds
talking about
better.
a person, so it's like Kneecap O'Brien.
Yeah, him.
Chick NICAP.
Kneecap.
Another incident, June 26, 1962. This was received by UFO researchers Jim and Coral Lorenzen, who I've actually read quite a bit about here. 2 brothers, John and James Westmoreland, were camping with their friend Ronnie Black. John was 14 years old. James and Ronnie were both age 11. So again, this is a story about kids witnessing something,
God, I
which
love all these names though.
I know, right?
They're
Kids-
so good.
some-
Kids
Name-ass
in the
names.
forest at night.
Yeah.
Okay, these kids are already having, they're.
Oh, it was in Tucson. It wasn't the forest. This is the buck ass
Oh,
desert.
this
This is
Yeah.
scrubs.
Yeah.
And what year was this? Or what time of year was this?
This was June 26th,
So it
1962.
was like 100 degrees at night.
You're going.
Desert
In
gets
the-
really cold
well,
at night too.
Kids are stupid.
Yeah.
Look, when you're faced with Occam's razor, it's probably aliens, okay? And not heat deprivation or cold or
Dehydration.
dehydration.
Heat deprivation or cold.
Anyways,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
around 9 p.m.
It gets cold.
Gets cold
And
at
hot.
night. Yeah.
You lose your heat. You get deprived of your heat. It's cold.
Around 9 p.m., what appeared to be a unusually bright star was up in the sky above them, and it seemed to move and slowly became lower in the sky. But when it remained stationary, they lost interest.
So they saw an airplane coming into land.
Kids in the 60s.
Well, it remained stationary in the
Probably
sky.
on-
Right. Have you ever sat like in line with as the planes are coming in? They're just like dots
Yeah,
that are sitting
that's
there,
very
and then
true.
once they get close enough, they kind of just start dropping down.
But the object remained in place for 2 hours. Around 11:45 p.m., it began to descend again, moving close enough to discern a triangle shape. It emitted 3 smaller green objects, then darted away.
Sure.
At the same time, another swooped down and hovered in place above the first. And they thought they saw a disabled UFO getting repaired by another.
So probably 2
Aw.
aircraft.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
Aw.
I'm stuck out here in the middle of nowhere. Yarth.
Yeah.
A famous Arizona thing, one of the actors from MASH witnessed a UFO here in Arizona.
Which
And
one?
he is actor Jamie Farr, who is best known for his role as Klinger.
Klinger. Yeah. Didn't he just die?
Did he? Oh, shit.
Someone from MASH just died.
No, I wasn't close to him.
He was one of Arizona's most famous UFO witnesses, though.
Oh.
Yeah.
Then you get Brad Pitt out here and start throwing discs up in the sky.
He was-
tossing cigars at him.
Those tortillas.
He was driving with his fiance when they witnessed something approaching their car very fast. And it
Like a car.
who
You know, some of these sightings are just like, we saw something.
Sir, you should have been watching the road regardless.
I have no other details, but it was something.
Mm-hmm.
it paced his car, and he was going 60 miles per hour, and the couple could see what appeared to be a dome with a light at the base. I don't think there's any cars back then that had lights underneath.
Sweet.
Underglow?
Western car.
Talking about the DeLorean could have gone back in time.
That's true.
You're right.
Also, the UFO seemed to stir up some dust on the ground below it. Farr, who was a former skeptic, was convinced that UFOs were real, and
Former skeptic.
he also reports that his vehicle never worked the same after the incident.
That could mean a lot of
Yeah.
things.
That's because he probably hit someone because he's looking over here.
Looking at the car driving next to him. I don't know. Maybe he did see something. I don't know.
All that LSD.
Could have been drugs. Could have been drinking.
Could have been tired, you know?
Yeah. If you get too tired while you're driving, you start to hallucinate
Yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just when you're driving. I mean,
Driving at midnight in the
Normally.
desert.
But if
you're too tired. You start hallucinating.
Yeah, if you're driving also while very tired.
You definitely don't want to be driving at that point. Because soon you will be not driving. Get to be knowing those trees a little better. The Squirmus cactuses.
I'm gonna try to find a good one to talk about. You guys go ahead.
I can talk about Fire in the Sky Guy.
Do it. Sky guy.
Travis Walton. He was an American logger who was supposedly abducted by UFO on November 5th, 1975.
Up near Strawberry.
And,
I think.
yeah,
Pine?
Snowflake.
Snowflake.
Yeah.
So after 6
those
p.m.
Snowflake
on November
places.
5th, Rogers and his crew, Rogers was another logger with him.
Yeah, I think it was his close friend or something.
Yeah,
like
it
that.
was one of his friends. His crew finished their work for the day, piled into Rogers' truck, and tried to drive back to Snowflake. The crew reported shortly after beginning the drive home, they saw bright lights from behind a hill. They drove closer and they saw a large silvery disc hovering above a clearing and shining brightly. They said it was around 8 feet high and 20 feet in diameter. They stopped the truck and Walton just leaped out of the truck and started running towards the disc.
That's what you do.
Yeah, he's just what the fuck is that? I immediately run towards this huge fucking thing.
Not the kind of person you want in a hostage situation.
No.
No.
Oh, they have a gun. Let's go straight up and hug them.
Yeah. So the others obviously were like yelling at him to come back, but he continued like just fucking gunning for it. They reported once Walton was nearly below the object, when the disc began to make noises similar to a loud turbine. The disc then began to wobble from side to side, and Walton began to cautiously walk away from the object. Was an idiot.
Made a fucking mistake.
I really regret this decision.
Walton tried to move away from the disc. The others insisted that they saw a beam of blue-green light coming from the disc and strike Walton. Yeah, they said Walton rose a foot into the air, his arms and legs outstretched, and shot back stiffly, some like 10 feet. Shot back. All right. All the while, caught in the glow of the light, his right shoulder hit the earth and his body sprawled limply on the ground. So he was like rose up and then just shot down 10 feet.
What year was that?
75.
In 74, there was another incident in Snowflake as well. I
Oh.
just saw that right here.
It should be fine to go there now, but in the 70s, mm-mm.
No.
That was Probin City.
Yeah.
Not just the aliens. But
About
the people too.
about 7:30
The
that
women, the
night.
children.
At about 7:30 that night, they called the deputy sheriff at the time, Chuck Ellison, another really good name.
Chuck.
Deputy Chuck Ellison.
Deputy Chick Logan.
Chick Chuck.
Chick Chuck Ellison Logan.
Deputy Woodchuck Logan.
They reported They initially reported one of the crew was missing, so at first they didn't even tell them what the fuck happened. They were just like, our friend's missing. So Ellison met them at a shopping center, and then they told him the tale. Like, they were basically just like, if we tell this guy that a UFO took our friend, he's not gonna come. All of the men telling him were like so distraught that they were just like in tears and like yelling at this guy. The deputy, this poor deputy, was just like, "What the fuck?"
Right in the middle of the night.
Aliens killed our friend, and then we were out of there.
In the middle of the night in Snowflake, Arizona, in the 70s, you get a call that someone's missing. You go out there, and there's a bunch of grown men freaking out.
Yeah. And then later they got law enforcement to go to the scene, but all of the law enforcement officers were very suspicious because there was no physical evidence of what happened. Though more police and volunteers arrived to search the area, they found no trace of Walton. So they were basically worried that he was just dead from hypothermia, because they were just like, no, he's just lost in the forest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But they eventually found him naked in a phone booth.
Yeah, there's so much information about these people just
So-
freaking out and waiting for this guy to come back.
Either legitimate alien abduction, or he played a ridiculous prank on his friends and drugged their water.
Well, that's the crazy thing about that story.
Yeah.
That... I don't know. I
No, I mean, that
believe there's something there to that story.
Yeah, November 10th, they all had to take polygraph tests to see someone from the Arizona Department of Public Safety basically wanted to know, like, did you guys kill your friend? Like,
Yeah.
did you hurt
DPS.
him? Do you know where his body is? Like, why are you lying to us about a UFO? But they all insisted on denying where the body was and insisting it was the UFO.
Yeah, because it was a crazy drug trip.
Yeah, and obviously they all passed the test. So
Did you ever see that Simpsons episode with where everyone thinks that Mr. Burns is an alien?
yeah.
It's one of my favorite episodes ever.
Oh man, if I have, it was a long time ago.
Basically, he was accidentally tricking the town into thinking that there was alien landings, because he was getting like medical injections that were making him glow and be high as
Yeah.
I have
balls.
seen that one.
And it was just a crazy coincidence of events that culminated into him walking through the forest glowing with smoke and whatnot, and people thinking it was hilarious.
It's the Flatwoods Monster.
Oh my god, it is the Flatwoods Monster. But yeah, the Fire in the Sky one, it's a hard one because in a way there's like not that many moving pieces compared to other things, because it's like you have a limited number of individuals who experienced it. One, let's be generous and call him a victim, I guess. The abductee, the dude, the guy.
Alleged victim.
The alleged victim. And he was genuinely missing. They genuinely found him naked in a phone booth.
Days later.
And his friends,
In town.
confused and distraught, don't have a lot of details or evidence of anything happening, which isn't necessarily their fault, because allegedly they were just freaked out, which is understandable.
70s in Snowflake, Arizona.
It was 70s in Snowflake, Arizona, and they were just a bunch of loggers.
Yeah.
Who, their friend, ran into a crazy bright light, and they were like, I'm not doing that because I am smart.
Yeah. Then they found him naked in the phone booth. The medical examiner revealed that Walton was essentially in good health, but they noted two unusual features. A small red dot on the crease of Walton's right elbow that was consistent with a hypodermic injection, but the doctors also noted that the spot was not near a vein. So, weird.
Aliens are bad at finding
Yeah,
veins.
they're just like, elbow, this fucking
Maybe
bone right
they
here.
don't understand human anatomy. They're just like,
You go to a learning hospital with the kids being, learning phlebotomy. You'll get stuck like 4 or 5 times before they find a vein.
The aliens are those fuckers who are just like, let me just wiggle it around in you to find it.
Those nurses, they're just
no.
like,
You're
I
so
can't
welcome.
find a vein, so just like, yeah.
So either
Still nightmares.
he was abducted by very shitty aliens who couldn't do their job right,
Humans are the real monsters.
or
Yeah.
he was abducted by the government, who was also very shitty and couldn't do their job right.
All the time, yeah. So
Well,
the second thing
maybe.
that they noticed was his urine revealed a lack of ketones. This is unusual given that if Walton had been...
On the
had
keto
any-
diet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was chock full of ketones.
Mm-hmm.
Given that if Walton had been gone for 5 days with little or no food, as he insisted, and as his weight loss suggested, his body should have begun breaking down fats in order to survive, and this should have had very high levels of ketone in his urine.
What a weird observation.
Well, yeah, weird.
But
But
interesting.
it's interesting because
Were
it
you
throws.
abducted? Pee in this cup.
I mean, sure, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not gonna not have a guy that's been abducted pee in a cup. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not
We've all
going
been
to
there.
not check his butthole, just in case.
Mm-hmm.
But no,
I like to call that a
I
forced
mean-
entry.
I think I think there's definitely something to this story.
Well, they made a movie in the 90s about it.
Starring the T-1000
Mm-hmm.
as I think his friend.
Something like that.
Then later, I think they made a couple more things.
They made a
Yeah.
new one just last year.
Really?
That's
they?
like
So-
a found footage style.
Oh, that was about the Phoenix Lights, I think.
Oh, that was the Phoenix
That
Lights.
was Phoenix Forgotten.
But I thought there was another one. There was Fire in the Sky, and then there was like another one that obviously wasn't as good, or I don't remember.
There could have been, but I don't remember.
Several
I
things were
remember-
made. I know, like last year or the year before, I think they made another documentary on it because
All I know is
people are always
his
following it.
his descriptions of what he saw when he was abducted
Yeah,
are
there's, like-
very vivid.
Yeah, there's a huge, like the rest of this
Yeah, it's
article
very,
that I'm posting
very
through is
detailed description.
is very detailed description. Yeah, Walton wrote a book called Fire in the Sky, and then that's what they based the
Yeah.
movie off of because
I have that book. It's,
yeah, since they wanted to take his like detailed descriptions, it actually portrays it pretty well in the movie too.
For the most part, they kind of did their own things. And
Yeah.
they made it more.
It was also the 90s.
Yes,
Yeah.
they wanted to make it more.
Yeah.
Based on
I
the
think
70s.
it was not action packed, but they wanted to make it more dramatic and
They did,
intense.
yeah.
Where I think
It was
there's-
based off the book, but it wasn't completely faithful to his alleged experience.
I
Well,
can't
no,
remember
but-
if it was the book that had it, or if it was his description, or if it was the movie. But one of them is wrong in that it describes him or not. It describes him or doesn't describe him flying the UFO back to Earth.
Oh, I hope it's the book. Wait, no, I hope it's the movie. Because I
Yeah,
can
that
see
sounds
it.
like a movie thing, but it was a good for the time.
Listening to
it's a good
Space Odyssey,
adaptation from
It's a fun
this
movie,
crazy ass book to
Yeah.
a movie.
and it has Doggett in it, so go check it out.
Yeah, and then check out like his huge detailed description of him being in the ship and being examined because
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go through all of that.
There's some really gross shit too. there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
it's pretty detailed.
It gets graphic. I have a fun one for you. And June 1st, 1974, a man was driving on his motorcycle about 40 miles southwest of Tucson when he noticed a small cloud in the sky. It was the first cloud he had seen on that day, and something seemed unusual about it. It was moving toward him and expanding in size, as clouds do.
That's a thunderstorm rolling in.
I always want all of these descriptions to stop after like the first sentence. So like, man was driving and he saw a cloud in the sky.
It's like the people who go to Sedona and they're like, oh, these vortexes in the sky. And you're just like, those are clouds.
With all this said,
That's a dust devil.
I'm making jokes for fun, but I do actually believe in UFOs. But it is fun to make jokes of some of these things.
Oh, because some of them are so just
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous. Like, how do you even expect anyone to take you seriously when you say, "I saw a cloud the other day, and it was weird. Like, I think it was following me."
And to be generous for a second, the best ones are always the ones where you're like, I wish I could have been there, And that's really all I can say because
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
This one gets more interesting. Without warning, the cloud stopped and a large metallic cylindrical-shaped object appeared from behind it.
James and the Giant Peach, go on. No.
I was going to say it's a giant
Boulder.
Zeppelin.
Zeppelin, yeah.
The 1974 Zeppelin resurgence.
Everybody knows about that.
It made a no noise, but darted away quickly and out of sight,
He got shy.
leaving the strange cloud behind. The witness got off his motorcycle and whipped out his binoculars. The object was gone.
Why is this guy riding around Tucson on a motorcycle with binoculars?
Because he's cool, Harley.
He's bird
He's,
watching.
he's one of those crazy wasteland raiders that's just like,
So many crackles in the radio
I
station.
found the gas.
Bullet Farm is from the Bullet Farm.
The object was gone, but the cloud was now rising swiftly upward. Soon it was out of sight. About 5 minutes had passed, and the witness was still searching the skies when the cloud reappeared in nearly the exact same spot it had been. Moments later, the metallic object approached from the south, slowing down as it appeared to enter the cloud, which quickly rose upward and disappeared. The witness went straight to Tucson and contacted local Air Force bases and radio stations about his sighting.
You know, one thing that interests me a lot about the way people used to be back then was like, oh, I saw something. I'm gonna go talk to the military.
Yeah,
just
Yeah.
they're gonna give me an
no,
answer.
not even just that. It's like
Idiots.
I'm just gonna go call up the air base because back then that's what you could do.
Yeah.
I could just
Is
go.
this the Air Force?
Hello, a colonel.
Harold Air Force.
Harold Air Force. Because I mean,
Talk
that's
to
just.
them.
I mean, a whole lot of the stories you hear, and people investigating them, you hear about like, oh, I called up the head guy in charge of the Army Air Force Intelligence Committee,
Yeah.
Speaking of,
and talked with him for like 30
That's a
minutes.
very good point too, because nowadays, even if you had someone connected to the military or like with military family members, they'd probably be like, "My blog, gotta get my blog on this."
It's just, I mean, it's just the amount of separation between people nowadays in
Yeah.
like military and stuff like that. It's remarkable to read these old accounts. It's like, oh, I just went up to the base and talked to the guy, you know, up in the radio tower.
Yeah. Barbara Dingleberry went into town and just talked to the general. He was at the coffee shop.
also back in these days in Arizona, pretty much everyone knew each other.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
have to consider that. Yeah,
Like-
yeah.
My family,
Especially in Tucson.
yeah, like my grandpa knows fucking everyone.
There was a population
His age.
of
But it
Dylan's
just,
family plus like 100 people.
Yeah, that's about
but
it.
it was just super interesting to see the way people considered. Oh, I'm just gonna go talk to the military.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go talk to the guy at the airbase. You know.
Yeah. Don't happen like that
No.
anymore.
Speaking of Air Force
Go straight to
bases,
the top.
here's one of many cases where Luke Air Force Base, specifically Luke Air Force Base, has lied and been caught in a lie.
Oh.
Scandalous.
I trusted them.
They were caught out with Christy Carmichael, and they said they were not dating.
Taking some hot sizzler pics of that.
TMZ reports.
Military
For about,
TMZ.
for about half a second, I legitimately was like, "Who the fuck is Christy Carmichael?"
Chick Logan here. Giving you the sizzlers.
Chick Logan's in the field. Cut to you, Chick.
So the chief, the tower crew chief at Luke Air Force Base
Okay.
in August 10th, 1974, said that
The guy that you would go talk to if you saw an alien object.
yeah, he said that he witnessed something that looked like a UFO and that it was really clearly visible. It glowed orange and red and seemed to move all about an approximate 2 to 10 degrees each time it moved.
It's very specific.
That's very specific.
He probably saw a firefly outside the window.
It's beautiful. A lady called him and asked him, do you see it? She was seeing the same thing.
See? I mean, you just call up
Yeah.
the guy in the tower.
And he's like, You fucking know what?
Hold
I
on.
do,
Let
actually.
me get Dolores on the line.
Yeah.
She called up this guy and is like, she saw something
not
hovering
just
over the.
called him later.
Have you told Martha about this yet?
She called him at the moment.
Not just called him
Yeah.
later.
It's
Called
like,
him
look out your
at
window.
the moment in the tower.
These are bored old people that are sitting there in their house.
God.
They see something over the
I
White
love
Tink
this.
Mountains. She calls him up. Do you see it? And the guy describes what he's looking at as she's looking at it, and she asks again, "Do you see it?" And the chief replies, "No." Because he, and I quote, "I wish to point out that at the time that we lied to the lady, we saw the object all too well, but due to extremely heavy amount of paperwork we would have to undergo, not to mention a psychological assessment, we answered her no, and that was a lie. To this day I regret lying to this lady." The chief and 4 other officers in the control tower observed the glowing object for 45 more minutes when, suddenly, and in the blink of an eye, it shot up and off to the right. That's a pretty weird story that...
But this, you notice how a lot of these sightings seem to be about 45 minutes long?
Uh-huh.
I wonder if there's any correlation behind that.
'cause
Or if people are just really...
That's the time it takes for the alien scanners to
Yeah.
update.
Triangulate a cell phone.
To get bored.
They're just trying to get a signal.
to get bored of fucking Arizona. And they're like, all right.
Yeah. They're like, oh shit, this place sucks.
Well, we've been watching Grackle Farm Bottom down there for
Desert.
like
Oh, look, some coyotes. That's pretty cool. All right.
There's that old lady Dolores who's always calling the military whenever we come around.
fucking Dolores.
Another thing about these that I've seen this in accounts before, and it always just kind of, once again, you get that feeling of like, I guess I wish I could have been there, but like, we lied to that poor woman. All 5 of us or whatever, we lied to them. And it's like,
Hey,
did you
no,
like
legitimately, people will lie about a lot of things to get out of paperwork.
That's
I know,
true.
and
That's very true.
their excuse,
Especially
It's a really good
it's
excuse.
a good excuse, but their excuse
Or a
could also
psychological
just
evaluation.
be a lie. It could just be something where they were like, "Oh yeah, I remember that happening. Yeah, we saw it all.
Yeah,
it was
sure.
up there.
Whatever."
Mhm. Yeah. It's like, I think they probably saw something,
It's one of those things.
and that she probably saw something, but time has passed. Lies already took place, so it's just kind of like,
It's one of those things where if you're up there in the tower and the general, the fucking head of the military is up there, and he sees it and you see it, you're both gonna go, "Nice weather we're having," and act like you don't see a thing.
You're just like, nice weather you're having, and he's just like, boy, you don't see the orange cloud out there? Call the president. Oh, sorry, we spiked. Let me get the general out of here. General, yeah, boy, I gotta get out of here. All right, okay. I got him away. Don't worry. He's very
Cut
loud.
that out or just lower the volume or something. I apologize for
Clipping
those.
through the audio.
I apologize to anyone listening with headphones on.
I would go and edit it a slight little...
I'm gonna lower it. Yeah.
5-star.
But
General.
here's a pretty interesting one. I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Real quick, what year was that Luke Air Force sighting?
That was 1974, August 10th.
Before August 10th.
So, yeah, like a little over a year before the Fire in the Sky dude.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one. I'm not going to read the whole story, but I am going to read the guy's description of what he saw, because it's pretty cool. This was February 26th, 1975 at 2 a.m. in the morning in the San Carlos Reservoir. A man woke up to see a strange structured object. Oh, by the way, he was sleeping on top of a camper.
Okay.
Just on top of it.
On top of it.
Enjoying the
2 in the
stars.
morning. 2 in the morning.
He had 2 friends, they were sleeping inside.
In the San Carlos
I think they were
Reservoir.
fucking, and so he was like, I'm going to let you guys do your
Sure.
thing.
I was about to say that actually,
I
but
think
I
that could have been the case.
Anyway, you're gonna
He
feel
woke
the
up to see
vibrations.
a strange structured object hovering about 10 feet away from the camper and 4 feet off the ground. It was 50 feet wide and 30
Jesus
feet
Christ,
high.
10
that's so-
feet. Wait.
Wait.
10 feet above the
No,
camper?
10 feet away from the camper and 4
4
feet
feet.
off the ground. It was 50 feet wide and 30 feet high.
So it's just right there.
So he just saw this giant building of a thing.
black in color and was moving silently at a walking pace northward along the edge of the reservoir.
They were just going for a stroll on the
I'm just
beach
imagining
with their ship.
I'm imagining a goddamn Borg cube. Just like,
Just kind of like,
walk the dog.
Oh, it's time to go walk the ship. Take it. It's got to do its business.
Anyways,
Processed metal cubes fall out.
I will say that he tried to bang on the camper to wake up his friends and show them, but it was already
Still
gone.
fucking.
And then
so-
it happened again at 3.
Wait.
And he knocked again, and they came out and they didn't see him.
And when it happened at 3:30, he was just like, man,
No.
what the fuck,
they're
right?
just fucking with him at that point.
He saw this thing at 2 a.m. Said that it was 30 by 50 feet, hovering 4 feet off the ground and moving at a walking pace.
Walking man.
Yep.
So when he went to wake up, how long did he wait to wake up his friends?
A long fucking time.
If this building of a thing
So what
flying through
happened
the air,
was he was knocking, and then
They were
when
knocking.
they woke up, it was hiding behind a saguaro cactus.
Yeah.
Cactuses were big back then.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like 2 a.m, and he said it was a black object. Like,
They look outside, they're like,
I don't see.
Yeah,
it.
they're
yeah,
just like-
yeah,
No,
they're just like
seriously.
all tired.
Seriously,
just like, what?
this is 2 a.m. in the San Carlos Reservoir. There are no lights.
yeah.
Like you can't even see.
The moonlight. The guiding moonlight.
you were always there. That 30 by 50 foot object. My true mentor.
And as if
Oh.
people didn't have a hard enough time accurately measuring distance in the middle of the day,
I know.
this guy in the middle of the night says that there's a goddamn building flying by him
4 feet off the ground.
and just strolling along the reservoir.
Yeah, that's so fucking close.
And
Reach out and give it a touch.
I mean, if it's that close, I mean, you might as
It
well.
was 10 feet away. That is
yeah.
like blocking out the horizon at that point.
Yeah,
So-
Huge.
yeah, 30 feet tall, 50 feet wide.
Another case of the government and the military being shitty.
That's 3. Actually, almost 4 shipping containers stacked on top of each other. Because shipping containers are about 40 feet long and
You're
about
right.
9 feet tall.
It could have been one really small and strong man transporting shipping containers. Walking along the reservoir.
Another account of the military and the government being shitty and covering stuff up. A military police member was out driving around and saw something, and when he when he reported it to his
Superior.
his superior went and reported it to his commander, and he requested to know just what the MPs had been smoking, and then he had the man destroy the reports.
Destroy the
All
report.
all statements. 2 weeks later, both MPs involved in this incident were sent overseas and on orders, and the officer never saw them again.
Totally thought you were about to say he had both MPs destroyed.
Me too.
Let me see that real quick.
Take it out.
Destroy them. Throw them into the fire. I was there.
Have them eradicated. They know too much.
This is from Yuma. Okay.
Ooh.
So yeah, have them killed in the desert.
No.
Yeah, they were
No.
sent overseas.
This is a man in Yuma in the 80s. Like, there's nothing happening in Yuma today, just like there's nothing happening in Douglas today. But
Just ripping Douglas today.
This episode we recall dumping on Douglas.
I'm looking at pictures of Douglas because I've never been there.
Is he nice?
no one has.
Is there anything
Does he look like a nice man?
Doug?
A
How's
large
Doug doing?
orange ball approached from the
That's kinda
north and came
spooky.
to rest on top of a large radio tower located in the center of
It's a small town there
Cibola.
somewhere.
At this point, the driver of the MP vehicle stopped his vehicle so they could get better observe what they were observing. They were So at this point, the driver of the MP vehicle stopped his vehicle so that they could better observe what they were observing. They were approximately 500 meters east of the tower. As the driver placed the vehicle in forward gear moving towards the tower, the bright orange ball came down from the top of the tower to ground level and began moving toward their location. The driver stated to me that he had never in his life had curiosity turn to fear so quickly. The driver then turned his vehicle around and attempted to depart the area. Both MPs state that the ball appeared to be around 100 feet in diameter. It cleared their vehicle and proceeded over the middle mountains going east at a very high rate of speed. MPs tried to claim they tried to contact the station dispatch but were unable to do so as the car radio mysteriously failed, so they drove straight to the base to report the incident.
A very common thing in these is cars malfunctioning after encountering
Machines malfunctioning, yeah.
All sort of technology just pooping out.
Electromagnetic pulses.
Probably. Or ghosts.
Yeah. Also, if anybody out there in Sunazona on the way to Douglas wants to also get at us, I'd love to talk to you about that. Or, oh no, I'm sorry, rodeo is in New Mexico. I'm so sorry.
So, did you find interesting locales in Douglas, Arizona to go
No,
visit?
it kind of it looks like a creepier version of Prescott.
But you know what? While you're down there, head over to Agua Prieta.
Sunazona looks terrible.
So-
Why
It's
are you
just-
looking at it?
Even though there was stuff kind of scattered throughout the 60s to 80s, the 90s kind of saw a resurgence of UFOs, not just for Arizona, but for kind of everywhere.
Some stuff happens in the 90s.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I mean, one of the first, prominent sightings is in 47, and then almost exactly 50 years later is one of the next prominent sightings in
Are you
Arizona.
talking about a synchronicity, Harley? Oh no.
No, we're getting to the Phoenix Lights. I want to talk about that here soon. Some areas in Arizona seem to have a disproportionately a large amount of UFO activity, and these areas are called UFO hotspots or flap areas. Tucson is definitely one of Arizona's UFO hotspots, particularly the area over the Catalina Mountains.
They have freaks out there.
No, the Catalina Mountains, there's a lot of freaks out there. No, the Catalina Mountains are incredibly rugged terrain.
Man, we're just dunking on it. Every Arizona place.
It's Arizona.
Listen.
This is our home state. We're recording our podcast. You're not going to like us, but we sure are going to talk shit about you.
Look, we're about to talk about the Phoenix Lights. That's the cake to resistance right there, okay?
No, the Catalina Mountains are incredibly rough terrain. So it's interesting.
Yeah, does it name any other hotspots? Because I want to know, are hotspots actual hotspots or just places where people actually are so they can report?
So,
Well, you can see the Catalina Mountains from Tucson. Mm-hmm. They're not that far away.
No, but I mean, like, not just Tucson, but like, is there a hotspot in the middle of nowhere where there wouldn't be people, but people happen to see things there? Because that would be more interesting than, like, one of the greatest hotspots in all of Arizona is a little place you might know about, small population, Phoenix.
Yeah.
That's not really a hotspot so much as just a lot of people there to report on things to me. But I don't know.
So some interesting things with the Catalina Mountains. In 1990, April, a woman named Ada, not sure if that's her real name or just used for this, but she was with her family and took a picture of a thing that she saw which faded away after. And she developed it and then took it to the, what's it called? Davis-Monthan Air Force Base.
Mm-hmm. As you would.
Yeah. Do you guys see this?
But that was the 90s, so that was different.
She was ushered into an office with 3 Air Force officers. They put the photo on a projection screen and asked her, "What are you looking at?" She said, "I'm looking at a flying saucer." According to Ada, the officers replied, "That's what it is. Don't ever show the picture to anyone and don't talk about it, because you might cause a riot."
That's pretty harsh.
That's also
I would expect them to just be like, we don't see that, or like just gaslight her, or be like, no, you're not, and then just like fucking destroy the picture.
Yeah.
How many times have people said they saw UFOs before? Did any of those times start a riot?
Yeah, people are just like, they're fucking dumb or crazy.
Well, also, I mean,
I'm mad.
She says she saw the same object fly over again in October.
It was coming back to be like, don't let those
I'm
guys take
assuming-
you down.
I'm assuming the photo was never circulated or anything like that.
And it doesn't
So,
say anything here yet.
Who knows? I mean, it could be
a good
legitimately good photo of a UFO.
And that photo will never be seen by any more human eyes.
Sweet.
Researcher
Dead
T.
drops.
Harvey.
All the time. Every time.
Researcher T. Harvey writes that there are rumors around Tucson about an underground base in the Catalina Mountains.
Yeah.
There are many old mines scattered all over the region. Maybe one of those mines leads to a base. Harvey isn't alone in his speculation. Roger Scherer of Southwest UFO Research says that people have seen lights and solid craft entering and exiting the Catalina Mountains. Not to mention reports of unmarked black helicopters.
Black helicopter.
There's an army air base down there. Like they do helicopter training down there.
But
What if
is
they
that
also
base in the mountains?
do they also do secret helicopter training out there?
Is that base full of lizard people
Maybe.
living in the mountain?
Could be.
I don't know. I've seen
Could
like
be Gorons eating rocks out there. Who knows?
I've been out on a trip sitting on the side of a mountain and just seen helicopters doing their training runs out through the valley.
And they come down, they stop, they're like, you know, good tell anybody about this ever again.
No.
And they give you a and they hit you.
Don't tell anybody you saw aliens.
You saw nothing.
They have such soft hands though.
There's
Sweet eyes like a doll's eyes.
But no, I mean there's been an army base down there that does helicopter training for a long time.
unrelated. I'm probably gonna cut this out. Did you guys know? I'm pretty sure you know. Did you guys know that there's a place in Arizona called the Mingus Mountains?
Mingus?
Yeah.
Where
Norman
are
Mingus and his funky fingers.
Where are those one? That's what he named his son, right? It was Mingus.
He did.
Yeah.
What?
Fucking animal.
Norman Reedus named his son Mingus Reedus.
Mingus the funky Venus.
Oh my.
Okay, maybe I will keep this in.
You can cut this part out because I totally forgot. Where are like those weird domes in Arizona? Are those near like those like whatever?
Oh,
underground
those
mines?
those concrete dome
Yeah.
things. Those are
Man-made domes?
Yeah.
yeah. No one really knows what they're. It's just like an abandoned
There's domes.
park thing that are like, but they look like airplane hangar domes, but they're not
An
big
abandoned
enough.
world of tomorrow?
Yeah, but they're not big enough. They're like 30 or 40 feet wide.
For tiny airplanes?
Yeah, of course now they're all covered in like graffiti and stuff.
Small
But
planes.
I think it's on the way to Tucson.
is it Casa Grande?
It is a Casa Grande.
Okay.
That's it.
The domes of Casa Grande.
Weird.
Yeah, allegedly it's a
yeah.
super creepy place, and
Thanks, I don't think I'll visit.
Thanks, I hate it.
we can totally go. It's not that far away. It's only about an hour and 30 minutes.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
an uncomfortable... Please look that up. It's a very disconcerting picture.
Yeah,
was
no,
it?
the domes of
Like
Casa
the-
Grande
Yeah.
domes.
are super.
go.
And there's about 30 or
I hate
40 of
Casa
them or
Grande.
something like that. Some of them have collapsed. Some of them.
Yeah, they look pretty small.
Some of them are gone. Like they were trying to be removed.
Yeah, like here's a.
No one
rubble.
really knows what they were for or why they were there.
Well, obviously humans don't have technology advanced enough to build domes like that, so it could have been ancient aliens.
Well, are you guys ready to talk about?
Ancient Hamians.
Are you guys ready to talk about
The Phoenix lights.
The
Phoenix?
Phoenix lights.
The fucking lights.
the slice?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
And that's the show.
Next time. Hello, listeners. This is Dylan, your nocturnal companion. No, not going to do that. That's a little gross. I am Dylan, and I am here to tell you thank you very much for listening to our first episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And we put a lot of sort of semi-hard work into it. I've been ready to get this podcast up and going for a long time, so it's exciting to see it finally being released. I hope you enjoyed listening to our first episode. The second episode will be out next Friday, with this plan to be every episode coming out every Friday. So keep an eye out for that, and follow us on our social media accounts if you can, if you want to. It would be much appreciated. It would help us. Spread the word if you can. That would be great too. We are on Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram as Lost Signals Paranormal. You can follow us on YouTube, where we will upload our podcasts, as well as maybe occasionally some fun little videos here and there. But yeah, I am glad to go on this journey with everyone. It has been a lot of fun, and it's only going to get better. The episodes that we have recorded are really good. Very, very... It just gets better from here. I don't want to spoil it, but things get crazy. Next week, though, is a good one with the Phoenix Lights, and also a very, very entertaining story about a man who has killed aliens on his property with a sword. So stay tuned for that. It is going to be a wild ride. Thanks for listening once again. I am Dylan, and I will be whispering weird things into your ears in the next one.